Welcome to the Bare Metal Cyber CISSP Prepcast. This series helps you prepare for the ISC Squared CISSP exam with focused explanations and practical context. In this episode, we are diving into privacy protection and the handling of personally identifiable information, also known as PII. With the growing digitization of personal data and increasing regulatory scrutiny, organizations must treat privacy as both a legal obligation and an ethical imperative. Mishandling PII not only risks regulatory penalties and lawsuits, it also jeopardizes customer trust, damages reputation, and erodes the integrity of an organization's brand. Privacy protection is not just about following the rules, it's about embedding privacy principles into everyday practices. Cybersecurity professionals must be fluent in how PII is collected, stored, processed, and disposed of. They must ensure that security controls align with privacy policies, that access is limited to those who need it, and that responses to potential breaches are swift, accurate, and compliant. Let us begin with a clear understanding of what personally identifiable information means. PII refers to any data that can identify or trace the identity of an individual. This can be either direct identifiers or indirect identifiers. Direct identifiers include items like full names, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, email addresses, and phone numbers. Indirect identifiers can include information like birth dates, zip codes, or demographic data, which may not identify someone on their own, but can do so when combined with other information. Organizations of all sizes and across all industries handle PII whether they are managing customer data, employee records, vendor information, or patient histories. Unauthorized access, mishandling, or disclosure of PII can lead to significant legal consequences, financial loss, and damage to public trust. That's why effective PII management begins with understanding what PII exists within your environment, where it resides, who has access to it, and how it's being protected. The first step toward this understanding is data discovery. You cannot protect what you don't know you have. Organizations must perform regular assessments to identify all systems, files, databases, and communications that store or transmit PII. This discovery process supports classification, labeling, and appropriate security controls. Now let us turn to the foundational privacy protection principles. These principles serve as a framework for designing and implementing responsible privacy practices. They are echoed across many regulatory frameworks, including the GDPR, the CCPA, and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. The first principle is transparency. Organizations must clearly inform individuals about what PII they are collecting, why they are collecting it, how it will be used, and who it may be shared with. This should be communicated in a clear and accessible privacy notice, not hidden in legal jargon or buried in lengthy documents. The second principle is data minimization. Organizations should only collect the amount of PII necessary to fulfill a specific business purpose. Excessive data collection increases risk without providing additional value. By limiting the scope of data collected, organizations reduce their exposure to breaches, improve compliance, and foster trust. Another critical principle is consent. Whenever possible, organizations must obtain explicit, informed consent before collecting or processing PII. This means individuals should actively opt in, with full awareness of what they are agreeing to. In some jurisdictions, consent must be specific, granular, and revocable at any time. Purpose limitation is another cornerstone of privacy. PII must only be used for the purposes that were originally communicated to the data subject. If an organization wants to use the data for another reason, it must obtain new consent or ensure the new purpose is compatible with the original intent. Finally, accountability means organizations must be able to demonstrate that they are following these principles. This involves maintaining records, documenting decisions, conducting privacy impact assessments, and being prepared to respond to regulatory inquiries or data subject requests. Now let us examine how to implement effective PII handling practices within your organization. The process begins with strong privacy policies and clearly written procedures. These documents should define how PII is collected, used, stored, accessed, and disposed of. Policies must be aligned with legal requirements in business operations. Technical security measures are also essential. Encryption, both at rest and in transit, ensures that intercepted data remains unreadable. Access controls, based on the principle of least privilege, restrict access to only those with a legitimate need. Secure storage solutions protect against unauthorized access and physical theft, while logging and monitoring systems track activity to detect anomalies. Training is a crucial part of implementation. Every employee who handles personal data must understand their role in protecting it. Training should cover topics like how to recognize PII, how to label and classify it, how to respond to incidents, and how to safely dispose of PII when it's no longer needed. Monitoring and auditing reinforce compliance. These systems help organizations detect unauthorized access, improper data transfers, or lapses in policy adherence. They also support internal investigations, help evaluate the effectiveness of privacy controls, and provide evidence for regulatory audits. Incident response procedures must also be clearly defined and tested. If a suspected breach involving PII occurs, your team must be able to act quickly. This includes isolating affected systems, notifying impacted individuals, and reporting to regulators within required timeframes. A timely, coordinated response helps limit damage and demonstrates accountability. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. You'll find bestseller books, training tools, and resources tailored specifically for cybersecurity professionals. Also explore additional podcasts and resources at baremetalcyber.com. Let us now look more closely at the regulatory frameworks that govern PII. The General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, is one of the most comprehensive data privacy laws in the world. It applies to any organization that processes the personal data of European Union residents, regardless of where the organization is based. The GDPR emphasizes data subject rights, such as the right to access, correct, delete, and restrict the processing of their data. It also mandates breach notification within 72 hours of discovering an incident. Organizations must maintain records of processing, perform data protection impact assessments, and appoint data protection officers when necessary. The California Consumer Privacy Act, or CCPA, grants California residents similar rights. Individuals have the right to know what data is collected about them, request that it be deleted, and opt out of the sale of their data. Organizations must provide clear privacy notices and implement mechanisms for responding to consumer requests. Healthcare organizations in the United States must also comply with the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA. This law mandates protections for personal health information, establishes rules for sharing and transmitting health records, and imposes strict penalties for noncompliance. Regardless of the specific regulation, compliance typically requires processes for consent management, access requests, data portability, and breach reporting. Documentation is essential. Your organization must be able to prove that its privacy practices meet legal standards. Regular reviews ensure continued compliance. As new laws are introduced or existing ones are updated, organizations must adapt quickly. Staying current requires collaboration across legal, compliance, and cybersecurity teams. Let us now focus on continuous improvement in privacy management. Privacy programs must be agile. Threats evolve, laws change, new business models introduce new risks. A static program becomes outdated and ineffective. Regular policy reviews allow organizations to adapt. Privacy notices, consent forms, data inventories, and impact assessments must be revised periodically to reflect changing practices and risks. Ongoing education ensures employees remain informed. Refresher training, newsletters, simulated phishing campaigns, and privacy awareness events help reinforce knowledge and build a culture of responsibility. Incident reviews also contribute to improvement. After every privacy incident, whether it involves a breach, a complaint, or a close call, the organization should conduct a review. What went wrong? What was handled well? What changes should be made? Collaboration across departments is essential. Legal teams interpret regulations, cybersecurity teams implement protections, business units manage processes. All of them must work together to create a cohesive privacy program. A mature privacy program earns the trust of customers, regulators, and partners. It prevents breaches, streamlines compliance, and supports innovation by ensuring that privacy is built into every system and process, not bolted on as an afterthought. Thank you for tuning in to the CISSP Prepcast by Bare Metal Cyber. Visit baremetalcyber.com for additional episodes, comprehensive CISSP study resources, and personalized certification support. Strengthen your understanding of privacy protection and PII handling, and will consistently support your path toward CISSP certification success.